So this greenhouse, this is our second succession. So when did these ones go in the ground? Was it like 2 months ago?
Yeah,
now?
some later than others. Okay, these ones over here, the bigger ones, went in the latter at the beginning of at the end of April, and these went throughout the season in May, with the last batch right in. Well, you can see some of this batch here was late, and some of the little ones in between. So we planted right into about mid-May.
Yeah, and these ones were also interplanted. So we had all these greenhouses were greens, like spinach, tatsoi, arugula, red Russian kale. We had some beds of turnips and radishes in here, and so these were all planted amongst greens. So like these ones, for example, were on the edge of a bed here. These were on the edge of that bed. These ones didn't get interplanted because I cropped out that bed of radishes and then we planted these right away. The ones that are double staggered, I don't think they were interplanted. It was the single line ones that were interplanted.
And some of them were planted a little later because we were waiting for crops. Okay, to put them
in. But this is more or less how we do tomatoes. So this is called hard pruning, and I learned this kind of just by experimenting for years. But when Roger started working with us, we kind of got a little bit more radical with it on how we do it. But the basic idea is that we're trellising everything, so the tomatoes are really dependent on the strings. So this is just baler's twine. We just buy it in a big orange roll. It's pretty cheap stuff. And the first thing we do, like our process here, I'll kind of take you through the beginning, and then we'll go to tine, and then Roger can kind of demonstrate some tine and pruning. But the first thing we're doing in here is we're putting the tomatoes in the ground first, and they're going in at about this tall, but we're burying, that's how much is out of the ground. We're burying them very deep. So we use these tree planting shovels. So when I was a Canadian tree planter, this is the shovel we used to plant trees. They're super handy for planting tomatoes, because what we do is we make a really narrow and deep hole. So yeah, do a hole, and
he doesn't do this.
I don't know why the fuck he's demoing
it. Okay, basically, and as far as the tools, like Curtis said, these are tree planting tools. The best combination for me personally, that's Curtis's, would be this attachment here. Because what you find here, this is a little too narrow in here. It depends on your soil. This is perfect.
You like the one side kicker?
Yeah. Well, it's a little wider on this particular one,
right.
so I like this one, absolutely. And I like this handle rather
That's why whenever I can't find that shovel, I know Roger's got it.
I went and bought my own. That's right. He was looking. So basically, what we do, and this is pretty soft, we just go like this, and it's perfectly square.
So you're making a little square, basically.
Okay. Okay. Now, as far as the depth, okay, that's going to depend on how long you keep them in the pots. Okay. Now, for the last year anyway, they stayed in the pot probably a little too long. They were so what you have to do there is to maybe dig them a little deeper. Okay, if you're putting them in the ground, they're only this tall. You just go halfers. Take all those leaves off, drop it in. Well, no, just drop it in the hole.
So we're pruning like
the leaves.
Yeah. So you've got your leader, the tomato, and then you've got a leaf, another leaf, and then kind of the top of the tomato. We'll strip off 2 of the leaves, and then bury it really deep. So where you've cut, that's actually going in the ground.
And that's on the videos too. And there's tons of pictures.
Why is it going so deep?
Because it gives it a really good root. Like everything roots after that.
See, what a tomato plant does, okay, and the reason you put them so deep, and some plants you don't, is on the tomato plants, when you put it in, you've got your root here, then it'll start growing roots in here. Okay, these little hairs, you can see them better on the transplants. They have a series of little hairs. That whole stem that you put in the ground is going to grow roots. More roots, more nutrients.
And easier access to water.
People tell me, my tomatoes are the shits. They're just, you know. And I said, how deep did you bury them? What do you mean, how deep did I bury them? I just put them in the ground. No. Okay. And people are adverse to ripping off the bottom leaves. You just need a little bit of leaves. and you're good to go.
Yeah, and the one thing too is like people often talk about bottom end rot. Like you see that you get that on the tomatoes. We never get that, and it's because, in my opinion, because we plant really deep. So bottom end rot is either two things most of the time. It's either lack of nutrients from soil. Usually it's calcium or magnesium, or it's weird watering cycles. Not enough water, sometimes too much water. And that's the beauty of going deep, is that when you go deep, the water's more consistent. Like when you're at the surface of the soil, water comes on, it's really wet, and then it dries out, and then it's really dry. But down below, like a foot deep, it's more or less the same consistency all the time, so it's better for the plant that way.
Yeah, there's no exact depth. Okay, the plants that you're putting in determine the depth. Nutrients. Okay, we all plant tomatoes, obviously. The importance of nutrients. And let's just look at these over here. These ones, look at the size
big
of
ones.
them. Now, the reason for those that are that big compared to these is, first of all, there used to be beds there. They were the extension of these beds over here.
Yeah, we widened this greenhouse out. Like these beds came out to here. So yeah, these are jacked up because they were on the tail end of all those beds we reprepped.
And those beds were pumped up this year. And also they went in earlier because that particular section was available. So you can't give tomatoes enough nutrients. So given to that, we take a good handful of your compost in the hole. A pinch of pixie dust, bone meal, okay?
Pixie dust is that 444, that Gaia green. Roger calls it pixie dust because it goes poof when you put it in the hole.
Whatever. Okay, and then we will put water in the hole. We will fill the holes with water, and then your plant goes in. Okay.
So somebody walks around after that hole's made. Like we'll make a bunch of holes, and then we come around with a hose or just a can, and we fill every hole with water, and then that water just soaks in. But what you're doing is you just put in a nice deposit of water right down below. Then we're planting, and then we'll water again after that. But that's just making sure that when you plant that root down there, it's got a nice moist environment.
So you wait till the water actually soaks in before you put the...
Yeah, and it only takes seconds.
Yeah, and not necessarily. You know, we throw them in. There's still water in the bottom of the hole. And what it does also, obviously the water leaches down and takes some of those nutrients down further in.
Yeah.
And the roots will go for it. What you want is a good solid root, because then you'll have good solid plants.